So you remember last year they also shot Jacob Blake. This was, I think, 2-3 days after my birthday, so I remember it very well. And they shot him 7 times in the back, right? And they paralyzed him from the waist down. He's still paralyzed. And now I see the news. Keep in mind, this is again in the last 24 hours, in the same week that they've shot and killed Daunte Wright. Look what they're doing now. They've cleared the cop who who paralyzed Jacob Blake and given him back his job as well, right? So back in January, they decided, okay, no charges. And now they've decided to give him back his job. His name is Rustin Shesky, this little shit over here. I mean, what the fuck is that? I mean, again, you'll have to forgive my cursing because this shit is infuriating. It's just unfucking believable, right? How on earth is this guy fit to serve in any community? In any community? You shot a man 7 times in the back to apprehend him? What is that? Like, if you need that many bullets, I mean, obviously you're not fit to do anything remotely connected to that. And you shouldn't have been using bullets in the first place. The fact that it's 7, my point is that the fact that they had to use 7 bullets just shows how trigger happy and violent they are. That's my point. It really does. It really does. It really speaks volumes that this guy is both violent and untrained and unfit to serve. And there's an element of racism in there because I can guarantee you will not hear about a white man shot in the back 7 times and paralyzed from the waist down over that, right? On his son's birthday. And again, for some reason, this interview is not playing. You'll forgive me, but it was with ABC. And this is with Jacob Blake. And he did this interview back in January when it was revealed that the cops, specifically Shesky, the one who shot him, would not be facing any charges. You know, how horrible it is. I'm trying to get it to play. I think it should work now. Okay, just allow me 1 second.
The first time the gun went off, It didn't really register. What happened? I thought it was another taser.
An ABC News exclusive today. Jacob Blake, in his first interview since he was shot and partially paralyzed by a police officer in August. Since then, Kenosha County's district attorney has announced that the officers involved will not be charged. Ravi Bajwal has Blake's side of the story in his own words with Good Morning America's Michael Strahan.
I resisted to getting beat on, and what I mean by that is not falling, not letting them put their head on my neck.
This morning, Jacob Blake speaking to Good Morning America's Michael Strahan, almost 5 months after being shot by police 7 times. Blake, now partially paralyzed, is using a wheelchair. He says he thought he would die.
I was counting down my breaths, my blinks. I'm just like, God, I'm coming.
All unfolding as his sons watched from the back seat of that car, seen in the video shown around the world.
I was like, he's shooting me. I couldn't believe it, so I kind of sat down in the car, put my hands up because I didn't want him to shoot.
Excuse me, I don't want to pause the video, but I just want to say one thing. Like,
are seen in the
look at the video how he's grabbing him, right? Right? He grabs him like clearly you are able to grab this man with your hands. Why do you need a gun? At best you're unqualified, right? That's at best. That's if you want to play devil's advocate. At best, he is unfit to be in police. At best. That's if you give him every benefit of the doubt. But it's beyond that. You emptied a clip in someone's back? What the fuck? This man is paralyzed. I mean, my heart bleeds for him, watching him in that wheelchair. It really does, man. Over what? Over what? Do you have an M16? He had a rocket launcher? Why did you empty a clip in his back? How deranged are you? These people are fucking cowboys, right? They're unhinged. They just start blasting. They don't care. That's not de-escalation. That's escalation. That's quintessential violence, right? You're shooting unarmed civilians. And keep in mind, they started wars over that shit, right? They say, oh, in Syria, look, these Arabs, they're shooting unarmed protesters. Quick, let's go invade them. They justify wars over that shit. Because the United States cares so much about unarmed civilians. And look how they treat their own civilians. I mean, it's despicable. It's beyond despicable. So sorry, I'm going to play the rest of the clip for you.
He's shooting me. I couldn't believe it, so I kind of sat down in the car, put my hands up, because I didn't want him to shoot me in my face or in my head or nothing. He just kept shooting.
It was August 23rd of last year, and Blake was at the house of LaQuisha Booker, the mother of 3 of his children, celebrating their son Israel's 8th birthday. An argument broke out between Booker and a neighbor.
Tears was coming out his eyes. He said, "Daddy, you sure it's my birthday?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know." I was like, I'm taking him to the store again, make him forget about all this.
As Blake prepares to leave, Booker calls police, who respond to what they call family trouble, knowing there's a felony warrant for Blake on domestic violence offenses and sexual assault. Blake walks out to put one of his sons in the car, and that's when he says he felt someone grab his arm.
Before the cop grabbed you, did they say anything to you?
No, not at all.
According to the Wisconsin Criminal Investigation Report, Officer Shesky, who shot Blake, recalled saying, "Let's talk about this." He said Blake put his child in the car and turned to face him. Shesky said he then grabs Blake's arm to put him under arrest and told Blake that he had a warrant. A struggle soon starts. Police think Blake is reaching for a weapon. He's tasered, and he ends up on the ground with the officer.
I'm rattled, you know. I realized I had dropped my knife. I had a little pocket knife. So I picked it up after I got off of him because they tased me and I fell on top of him.
Open knife in hand, Blake walks towards the driver's side door. He says, ready to surrender.
Throw myself to the ground and, you know, put my arms behind my back.
According to the criminal investigative report, Officer Shesky says that Blake drove the knife toward Shesky's body. Blake denies this, citing the video.
Well, there are going to be a lot of people who look at the video and say, in the video, you're walking away from the police. So why didn't he just stop and do what the police are asking him to do?
I couldn't hear that. All I heard was screaming. My ears was ringing.
According to the Wisconsin Criminal Investigation Report, in the past, Blake has been arrested for fleeing police and for resisting arrest. These charges were dropped. Blake says he has talked to his kids since that day.
I've explained to him and broke it down to him, like, Daddy can die, but for some reason I didn't that day.
Last week, the district attorney announcing that none of those Kenosha police officers involved in the incident will be facing criminal charges, and nor will Blake. The Department of Justice has an open civil rights investigation here, and the Blake family has also indicated they plan to file suit.
Right. So, I mean, I don't even know what to say, man. This is violence. This is real violence. You know, again, there are going to be people like, oh, you see, he had a pocket knife or he had a knife. Yeah, again, I just showed you in the UK how cops dealt with someone with a machete. All right, a machete. They didn't kill him. Right? Like, do you think that in other countries, and I'm giving you in the UK as an example, because I'm half British and they don't have guns there. Do you think that in the UK, people do not resist arrest? Do you think in the UK, no one resists arrest? Plenty of people resist arrest every single day. That doesn't mean they get fucking killed. There are people carry knives. That doesn't mean they get killed. There are other ways of going about this. You cannot come here and convince me otherwise, because that's a fact. There are other ways of doing this. The fact that they refuse to do it other way, after all of this shit, like how many more black men have to be killed before you start doing shit the other way? De-escalating, training people properly, rooting out racism. How many fucking times does this have to happen? There are other ways of doing this. They refuse. They refuse. Again, they're not only refusing to hold these criminals accountable after they murder civilians or maim them for life, but they refuse to change the system as a whole, right? And just to give you another example of this, do you remember this 75-year-old man? You'll forgive me, I don't know his name. He was white, though, and this was in Buffalo Springs, if I recall correctly, last year, and everyone saw this video. He's walking towards the cops, and they pushed him, and, you know, he tips over, and he falls and cracks his skull and starts bleeding out of his ear, and they just leave him there. They just leave him there. Those cops, they threaten to resign and protest, right? Did you remember that? The entire department was like, oh, if you charge the guys responsible, we're going to quit. And interesting, right? How they know how to use their collective power, right? When they want to. And they threatened to resign, and no one's facing charges, right? That was also announced a few weeks ago. They cracked this man's skull in broad daylight for no reason. No charges, nothing. And I told you last year, I would not be surprised if Derek Chauvin, because now they have the trial with George Floyd going on, I would not be surprised if Derek Chauvin also gets off scot-free. I told you. Yeah, expect that shit. Look at what happened with Rodney King. Look at what's happening right now in Kenosha, right? With Jacob Blake. Look what's happening in Buffalo Springs. This is messed up. This is messed up. And I want to show you another video right now. This is from a few days ago, okay? This is
still in his uniform.
there we go.
One of the
All right, I'm going to switch it over. Take a look at this.
police officers involved in a controversial traffic stop of a black and Latino Army officer in December has been fired. Body camera footage shows Windsor, Virginia police officers Joe Gutierrez and Daniel Crocker pointing their guns at Army Second Lieutenant Karan Nazario before Gutierrez pepper sprays him. Lieutenant Nazario was released without being charged, and he is now suing both officers. CBS News correspondent Christina Raffini has the story.
What's going on?
How many occupants are in your vehicle?
It's only myself. Why are your weapons drawn? What's going on?
The door slowly and step out.
Get out!
Get out the car.
Get out now!
I have not committed any crime.
In body camera and cell phone video, Army Second Lieutenant Karan Nazario, still in his uniform, holds his hands out the window of his new car, while two Windsor, Virginia police officers, guns drawn, order him to get out.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me, please. Get your hands off me.
You know what?
Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. I didn't do anything. Don't do that.
Nazario repeatedly asks why he's been pulled over, before ex-officer Joe Gutierrez pepper sprays him through the open window.
Sir, just get out the car.
I'm trying to breathe. Ugh. My dog is in the back. My dog is choking right now.
Get out of the car.
Nazario is then kicked, forced to the ground, and put in handcuffs.
Why am I being treated like this? Why?
You're not cooperating.
The incident report says Nazario was pulled over for not having tags displayed on his SUV. But the temporary dealer plate is visible in the officer's body cam video. The report also said officers treated it as a high-risk stop because Nazario had tinted windows and drove at a very low speed to a gas station before pulling over, a move Gutierrez later said he understood.
As far as you not stopping and because you were uncomfortable and you wanted a well-lit spot, Lieutenant, that happens all the time.
He did everything that we are told to do for everyone's safety.
Attorney Jonathan Arthur represents Nazario.
When you look in your rearview mirror and you see two firearms trained at you, you got to get real calm, real quick if you want to get out of there alive. You know, it's a credit to his training.
What are you, a specialist, Corporal? What are you?
I'm a lieutenant.
According to the lawsuit, the officers also threatened to derail Nazario's military career if he pursued further action against them.
If you want to just chill, let this go, and no charges filed, we'll take the handcuffs off, we'll get you a bottle of water you can drink on, and sit here until you feel comfortable driving.
Now, after that search of his vehicle turned up no violations, Nazario was released without charge. The governor of Virginia has asked state police to investigate the incident. CBS News reached out to the Windsor Police Department. We did not hear back. Anthony Nazario's attorney said he wanted to file the lawsuit to hold these two officers accountable, and so these kinds of stops stop happening.
Christina Raffini, thanks, Christina. Wow. I mean, I can't imagine pulling into a gas station and suddenly facing a couple of guys with guns pointed in your window.
But this is the thing, guys. He was calm the whole time.
Yeah.
And he's
he was calm.
lieutenant.
They weren't.
He's in uniform, And when they said he drove at a low rate of speed, that should show he wasn't trying to get away.
No.
And I don't blame him. As a black man in this country, getting stopped on a rural highway, he's thinking, let me get to where there's light.
Where it's lit, yeah.
And he immediately started cooperating. Just that, this is the thing that bothers me. It was such an issue of power and control. They did not treat that man like a human being.
Yeah.
And that's what's so troubling about it.
And since when do you get pulled over for having tinted windows?
Well, yeah, they could have solved that much differently. Driving slow was a problem. We know driving fast is a problem. So what's the solution here?
Yeah. They said he got pulled over too, Anthony, because he didn't have a license plate on the back.
It was there.
But it turns out it was a temporary one in the window.
The report showed it was there.
Yeah, it was there.
Well, you know what I find interesting about this clip is how you always hear Americans going off about, oh, our men and women in uniform, respect the veterans, right? God bless the troops, and all this propaganda bullshit. But as soon as it's a black man, oh, that shit goes out the window. That's out the window, right? So much for respecting the troops. Do you see how he didn't even know the rank he was? He was like, what are you, a corporal? I'm a lieutenant. Like, he tried to downgrade him from an officer to below an NCO. And then also at the end, I want to play this part again at the end, because it shows you it shows you they know how guilty they are and how corrupt they are. Okay, pay attention to what they told him at the end, right?
Career if he pursued further action against them.
If you want to just chill, let this go, and no charges filed, we'll take the handcuffs off, we'll get you a bottle of water to drink on, and sit here until you feel comfortable driving.
Oh, how generous of you. Like, we'll release you if you don't file any charges. You better chill. No, I think you need to chill. Like, the stones on these people, it's unbelievable, right? They know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. And I want to raise another point that I often hear is like, oh, well, if you just comply with police, like if you just stop resisting and you comply, then nothing bad will happen. No, again, there's no law that says resisting arrest equals execution. That's where are you getting that from? Second, why are black people supposed to comply with the law to the letter, but the cops are not? The cops also have to tell you why they want you to get out of the vehicle and why they're trying to arrest you, right? Where's their end of the deal? Why aren't they holding that up? Why do they feel comfortable drawing their weapons for something that's nonviolent? This guy has his hands out. You can't justify drawing a weapon for that. That's bullshit. I don't accept that. Who would accept that? What law is that based on? Huh? And yelling, like, you saw how violent they are? You heard them. What on earth are you yelling for? It's the middle of the night in a gas station. Calm the fuck down. The dude is alone. He has his hands up. And they're trying to terrorize him, right? They're trying to terrify him. It's astonishing, right? It's astonishing. And this is just what we have on video. This is the stuff we know about. This is the stuff we know about. And, I wanna read you a tweet over here from Ajamu Baraku, right? Baraka, excuse me. And look at what he says, right? This is very interesting. He says that guns and the culture of violence in the United States cannot be understood disconnected from guns and violence as part of United States warmongering across the planet. You want to end gun violence? Oppose war and the driving force of war and repression, capitalism and imperialism. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with Ajamu. And, the way that they're also talking to this lieutenant, the way that I often see them talking to black people on video. It reminds me how U.S. troops treat Iraqis or other people that they're colonizing and occupying. And I want to show you video over here. This is from Iraq. I mean, look at this. Like, look how dehumanizing this stuff is, right?
Yeah, on your knees. On your knees. Down. Get down.
These tactics weren't limited to Sassaman's battalion.
No, down. Get down.
Other American forces were doing the same across the country.
This is not liberation activities, not peacekeeping, rebuilding, no. It's an all-out war.
Do you see how they're beating on him when he's on the ground? That dude is unarmed. He poses no threat whatsoever. They were just arresting people. You know, it's the same thing, right? Oh, like they say, oh, it's an air freshener. Oh, your tags expired. Oh, the tinted windows. And the same thing they would do in Iraq, right? They'd say, oh, this guy's a taxi driver. No, he's a terrorist. Quick, take him to Abu Ghraib. Yeah, a lot of the people that were in Abu Ghraib that you saw tortured, they never did anything wrong. Even in Guantanamo Bay, you got tons of people that have no business being in Guantanamo Bay. They just arrest them for no fucking reason, right? It's not even bad intelligence, because if you look at WikiLeaks documents, there are even people they knew they had falsely arrested, and they still kept them detained. They were still torturing them, even after they knew that this is the wrong guy. And so they do the same thing when they're occupying in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever they go. They come up with whatever reason, the tiniest made up infraction to start brutalizing and oppressing people. It's in a very similar fashion. And they can get away with it, right? Like if they get away with killing other Americans, black Americans in the United States, and nothing happens to them, of course, they would feel emboldened to go and do the same overseas, and worse, where no one is going to hold them accountable either, right? No one's been held accountable. No one went to jail. I mean, for Abu Ghraib, I think they served with 6 months and everyone else got suspended sentences. Yeah, you can literally murder and torture people in Iraq. And because the United States government views them as less than human, you won't be actually punished like if you had actually done that to a white person in the US, right? Interesting. And I mean, look, this is a famous photograph from the war in Iraq. On the right, this is the girl at the checkpoint. And they executed her entire family because they did not read a sign or heed a call to stop at a checkpoint. Once again, it's like they're going to make up these laws as colonizers. They make up these laws, and then if you don't comply, it's death. It's death. Fuck you, death. So you can draw genuine parallels between this brutalization. You look at also how George Floyd was killed, that technique with putting the knee on the neck. Israeli forces do that every single day to Palestinians. And they even train some U.S. police departments. I don't know if the one in Minneapolis, Minnesota was specifically trained by Israeli troops, but there are other ones. There's a program. This is a real thing. There are programs for U.S. law enforcement agencies to enroll in, and they go to Israel and they receive training. And you know, putting your neck putting your knee on someone's neck and cutting off their air supply, their oxygen supply. That's one of the techniques they teach them because they use it every day on Palestinians, right? So my heart bleeds and seeing this stuff, and I want to, it's injustice, it's oppression, and I call it out because I can't stand it. And I always have solidarity, with Black liberation, Black Lives Matter, and all of these movements to combat racial injustice, because I see it from an empathetic point of view. Just as a human being, from one human being to another, seeing someone brutalized like that, it breaks my heart. But also, on an anecdotal level, because I know that they do this to Arabs, right? They do this in Iraq. They do this to Palestinians. My cousin is half Palestinian, right? So naturally I sympathize, and yeah, it's important to call it out because it's not okay. And another parallel that you can draw, not just a psychological one or a moral one or a societal one, is that even an economic one, right? You look at these paramilitarized police forces in the United States. Who's arming them? Who's giving them these armored personnel carriers, the APCs, right? Who's giving them, the drones that they use? Yeah, they use drones, right? Take a look at this. You had Customs, Border and Protection using a Predator drone, which, is usually reserved for reconnaissance and also firing missiles on people and killing them. They've been using this in Minneapolis, right? Among other aerial vehicles. And I mean, this is well studied, right? How police in the United States, they're armed to the teeth. They're being sold equipment, right? They're being sold equipment from these same manufacturers that sell Uncle Sam and his military this equipment, right? It's the exact same company. So they're not only profiting from war overseas, they're also and that oppression of people around the globe. They're also profiting from domestic violence, from domestic, law enforcement agencies buying up these same equipment that they don't need. These things are meant for battle, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, if you look over here, look at this big chunk of vehicles that they bought, right? So this is according, sorry, I pulled up the wrong way there. Here you go. So this is according to the Defense Logistics Agency, right? Look how many mine-resistant vehicles they bought. $745 million worth, right? That's obscene. What do you need mine-resistant vehicles for? It's a racket. Once again, we go back to the racket of the military-industrial complex. And of course, there's a real element of racism and violence there, right? Because they don't permit themselves to treat white people like that, right? They don't permit themselves. And there is a connection, like Ajamu points out. There is a real connection. And that's why we have to have solidarity with each other. Again, each one of our causes is unique, and each one of our struggles is important on its own. And it needs to be given its proper attention on its own. But I still think we should be able to recognize when we have a common oppressor and unite, against that, because that's important. So it's absolutely disgusting seeing all this police brutality continue. Now you have Joe Biden restoring the soul of the nation. Is this his idea of restoring the soul of the nation? Let me just show you one last thing that Joe Biden said, right? Because of the protests, the people who are rightfully protesting these injustices. Take a look at what he said over here. And again, he said this last year, right? He said this last year too.
I haven't called.
So again, this is just 3 days ago after the killing of Dante Wright.
I haven't called Dante Wright's family, but our prayers with their family. Is really a tragic thing that happened. But I think we got to wait and see what the investigation shows, and the entire investigation. You all watched, I assume as I did, the film, which is the body cam, which is fairly graphic. The question is, was it an accident? Was it intentional? That remains to be determined by a full-blown investigation. But in the meantime, I want to make it clear again, there is absolutely no justification, none, for looting, no justification for violence. Peaceful protest, understandable.
What? That's weird, huh? How he's unequivocal when it comes to looting, yeah? But when it comes to police killing unarmed civilians, well, it's not clear, and we still have to wait for the investigation, and you saw that change of tone like that. Also, I want to point out the hypocrisy. This motherfucker is talking about looting. He's looting oil in Syria right now, and he's the stones to talk about looting. Same with Trump, huh? Right? They all take this like Reagan-esque stance, like, no looting. We're gonna crack down on protesters. Protect the businesses. Right? They all sound like that. And meanwhile, they're looting other countries. Like, the hypocrisy is just staggering. It leaves me speechless. These pieces of shit who spend their entire military budget on looting other countries are now telling you, look, the state is going to kill black people, and if a window is broken, we're going to send the National Guard. Wow. You heard it straight from the horse's mouth, right? And I just want to add one thing. Excuse me. You see these Humvees, right? Again, this is another manufacturer that has profited immensely. I don't think they make this model anymore specifically, but they still use some of them. And you've seen these in Iraq, of course, and other deployments. And now you have the National Guard being deployed to Minneapolis and to Minnesota. And I just want to say one thing. When people say that, oh, it looks like Baghdad, right? Or you had Meghan McCain saying that the fence around the Capitol and all these troops, the National Guard, it looks like Baghdad. No, I want to be clear on something. Iraq does not look like that. That's you. You look like that. That's the United States. Those are American Jeeps. Those are American troops. colonizing, occupying other countries. Baghdad looks nothing like that, I can assure you. Baghdad has been around for, quite a long time. Centuries before the United States was ever founded. Centuries, right? Afghanistan does not look like that. That's you. That's the United States. That's your war machine. That's your occupation. That's you. You look like that. That's your ugly face. So don't say that shit looks like Baghdad. You wish you looked like Baghdad. You wish you looked like these ancient civilizations. You fucking wish, right? Don't get it twisted, though. Don't get it twisted. What people actually mean to say is that this is militarization. That I agree with. That's oppression. I agree with that. But don't say that, our countries look like that. No, they fucking don't. No, they don't. They look like that when the United Kingdom and the United States come and occupy and colonize them. The big difference. Big difference. Don't get it twisted. And, again, I'm just disgusted by this, but I think it's important to report on. And, I'm hoping YouTube is not going to take it down. Worst case, you're going to find everything on Rockfin. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not going to let them stop me from talking about this because this is so disgusting. And, you can sit here and tell me until the cows come home about, the officer feared for their life. They had a pocket knife with them. Their tags were... I don't give a shit. I really don't give a shit. A man being stopped for a traffic violation or just any traffic stop, right? Especially a black man, does not mean they should be executed. I don't know what fucking, twisted mentality you got, but I don't come from that. I don't believe in that. And there are other ways of doing things, right? I just showed you how in the UK, if they want, again, the UK has its own racism issues. we're not diminishing that, but there are other ways to deal with this. You cannot come here and tell me that you must execute any person that you think remotely poses a threat because you're racist towards them. That's bullshit. I don't tolerate that. I don't accept that. People resist arrest every day in the United Kingdom. All right, people carry knives all over the United Kingdom. They're not executed, just for the sake of not wanting to be taken into custody or whatever. That's nonsense. That's absurd. I don't accept that. This is a racism issue. It's a violence issue. It's a militarization issue. We have oppression going on here, so we got to call it out. And don't come here and tell me that a person that is not even booked or taken down to the station must be executed like that for no reason. I don't tolerate that, right? Uncle Sam took Saddam into custody alive. they took Charles Manson into custody alive. They took mass shooters into custody alive. Weird how they never seem to be able to take young black men into custody alive, right? That's so crazy. Weird. What a weird fucking pattern. How bizarre, right? How bizarre.